Alright, class. This is for Mr. Claxton's Algebra 1 regular class. We had some problems last night involving multiplying and dividing real numbers. This concept, pretty old to us, probably seemed pretty easy. I do want you to show work, though. In order to show work, on the tougher problems, you need to break down some of these division problems. Showing your work also involves writing it a different way. I'm just going to do some of the problems. That way you know what I expect out of you. We're going to start with number 1, 2, and 3 up there. I know that for numbers 1, 2, and 3, any time that I multiply a negative times a positive, or vice versa, a positive times a negative, because of the commutative property of mathematics, my result is going to be a negative. I can automatically go up here and say that 1 is going to be a negative, 2 is going to be a negative, 3 is going to be a positive, because I'm multiplying two negatives together. I know that 4 is going to be a negative, 5 a negative, divided by a negative there. I know that the quotient of that is a positive. The quotient of these two numbers will be a negative. The product of these two numbers will be a negative. The product of negative 5 and 2 is a negative. And the product of negative 19 and 0, whoa, hold on. It's not a negative. It would just be 0. Because any value multiplied by 0 is 0. 0 divided by negative 2. I do want you to rewrite that just so you can see 0 divided by negative 2 is allowed. This hasn't caught on fire yet. Okay? 0 divided by negative 2, I am allowed to do that. It is 0, that holy number. I have a negative multiplied by a negative here, which is a positive, and a positive multiplied by a negative, which is a negative. Now we can go back and just worry about the numbers. After we get all those products down, we can just worry about the numbers now. Some of you may do it as you go. 12 times 4. Some of you might know that 12 times 4 is 48. If you do not know that, then I want you to come down here and show me how you get it without a calculator. If you know that it's 48, then you know that your answer is negative 48, and you can move on. But for those of you who don't know, I could take 12, or in this case, negative 12, and add it to itself. Notice how I put that in parentheses there, so it doesn't look so ugly. 4 times. At this point, it's just a matter of counting by 12s. 12, 24, 36, 48. I know that negative 12 times 4 is negative 48. And that's how I show work for that. The neat thing about that is if I show work for 1, I do not have to show work for number 2 because I know it already. Okay? I can just say C number 1. I know my answer to that already. Negative 48. This one would be like adding negative 4 12 times. We don't want to show that. And of course, positive 12 times positive 4, I really don't even need that positive 48. That just kind of looks goofy. It kind of looks like I'm in middle school. So I can go back, grab the eraser, and anything that has a positive, I know that I don't need to write that positive. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase that now. And then 12 divided by negative 4. Now 12 divided by negative 4, I did want you to show work for that one. Remember 3, we didn't need, we can just put ditto marks there. 4. 12 divided by negative 4. I want you to get used to recognizing that division is the same as writing a fraction. This is the same as 12 over negative 4. 12 over negative 4, if I'm having trouble with that, which hopefully you're not, I want you to think, what times negative 4 is 12? This value, whatever value I put right here, when multiplied by negative 4 should give me 12. That's how to turn division into a multiplication problem. I know that 3 times negative 4, negative 3 times negative 4 is 12. So I know my answer up here is negative 3. Now the thing about that is I do not have to show work again for this because I know a negative divided by a negative is just going to give me a positive 3. And here I have a negative divided by a positive. I know my answer is going to be negative 3 again. 6 times negative 1, I know that's just negative 6. By the identity property. Now I know you're thinking, Mr. Claxton, that's not the identity property. You're not multiplying by 1 there. But if I come down here and show you the work, I can show you how I can use mathematics to change that around so I am using the identity property. I know that that negative 1 can be split up into 6 times negative 1 times 1. Because I can always multiply by 1, I get the same product. I can take 6 times negative 1 now. 6 times negative 1, the product of that is negative 6. And now I'm multiplying by 1. So negative 6 times 1 is itself. Negative 5 times 2. Negative 13 times negative 3. Like I say, I know my answer is positive. I don't need to put it there. If you're struggling with this one, the easiest way, instead of writing 13 groups of 3, I can write 3 groups of 13. I can read it backwards by the commutative property. So if you're struggling with that one, look at that. I wrote number 13 up there mistakenly. We all know it's number 11. I could write 13 plus 13 plus 13. A lot of us feel more comfortable with adding 13, 26, 33. I didn't need a calculator for that. Actually, 39, Mr. Claxton. Come on now. Just to make sure that you were paying attention. 13, 26, 39. I'm adding 13 every time. Then I know negative 17 times negative 5. This one might be a little tougher for you. You might need to kick it old school. If you do need to kick it old school, that's okay. I'm going to show you a trick, though, so you don't have to multiply it old school. I know what 17 times 10 is. I know what 17 times 10 is. You should know what 17 times 10 is. That's 170. Anytime I multiply by 5, I can just take half of this value. Half of 170 is all I'm looking for there. I know that's going to be the product of 17 times 5. Half of 170. Well, I know that half of 100 is 50. Half of 70 is 35. When I add those two together, that's 50 plus 35. And if I needed to show that, then I would say 50 plus 35. Go ahead and write it for you. A lot easier to do. I know that that answer is 85. The product of negative 17 times 5 is going to be negative 85. So hopefully you've gotten some benefit out of me doing those first 12 problems. Stay tuned for more to come.